I want to give you a little bit of background on the marketplace. And so I want to start here with this first quote from Rajesh Ghai, who's the research director of carrier network infrastructure at IDC, a leading market research firm. So from their market research report in December of 2017, Rajesh made this point that there's a strong business case that exists for network function virtualization at the network edge. The point that is really important here is, and what I've highlighted is, this market research firm looks at the market, looks at the dynamics, looks at the future revenue and says, this is real, there's a business case, people should be doing this. Now, what's more important is the second quote where he says, while there's short-term business benefits in the form of lower acquisition costs, the long-term business case truly rests on the advantages that accrue from simplicity, flexibility, and agility for being able to deploy a service or network service. In this case, as we'll come back to, that network service is a session border controller function. So what I think I really want people to understand right at the get-go is this isn't just hey, there's a technology looking for a use case. This actually has valid business case reasons. We'll talk about them later as we go through this. It's happening now, and it's happening because it makes business sense for operators to be moving to NFV. So how big is this market? I mean, what's really happening out there? So here's some information from a different market research firm called IHS Markit, and they track all sorts of things in the telecom industry, and for my particular purpose, I pulled this information out of their market research report from November last year. So VNF Software is a big market. By the end of 2021, they're predicting it's going to be a $15.5 billion market. Now, that does not include VNF services associated with implementing VNF. It doesn't include hardware, because there's still hardware that's needed in data centers to do this. This is just services. Just software. So as you can see by the many colors on this bar chart, they've broken down VNF into multiple categories. One of their categories, as you can see, is titled IMS, SBC, and DSC, and that's actually the top box on each of the vertical bars. So when I look in detail at their numbers, that top section, IMS, SBC, and DSC, is going to grow at approximately 25% compound annual growth rate between now and the end of 2021. What's important here is that the market 2 to 4 years ago was still in very early stages, but since last year it's taken a significant uptick. And what you're going to see, and I'll show you in the next slide, is it's not only taking the uptick, but there's a real transformation taking place between deploying physical and virtual SBCs, which would be a subset of this gray category here. So I went back and I looked again at IHS market details, and we pulled out just this information of virtual SBCs as a percent of overall SBC revenue. The green represents physical appliances, the gray represents virtual network functions or software only. And what you can see is there was a big, even though the total market revenue dropped from 16 to 17, the percentage that was virtual, the gray bar opposed to the green, took a huge jump. And what you'll see going forward from this year, 2018 through 2022 at the end of their period, is that they're looking at a growth in the virtual versions of a session border controller from 40% this year to 76% by 2022. So if you look at this information and you trust that these guys have a reasonable view on the future of the marketplace, they're basically saying, if you're not already looking at buying virtual SBCs, you should be, because that's where the market's headed. So the premise of, again, as I said, there's a business case for this, there's a market growth to this. These data points are all lining up to say, if you're not already thinking about this, you probably should be thinking about it. If you are thinking about it, how do you move forward so you make sure you're successful?